The birds are soaring. Katie and Bernie back with you. Welcome to Cardinal Territory, where all of a sudden the tone of this podcast has become a lot more positive. The Cardinals played their fourth doubleheader of the season, which is crazy, but they did some nice work splitting the doubleheader, losing 2-1 in game one and 14-7 in game two, with I think their most commanding and most impressive win of the season. I loved both games of that doubleheader. I loved all three of those games from a series standpoint. To go into Citizens Bank Park and defeat a playoff caliber team like the Phillies and play three really competitive, compelling baseball games. I think we continue to learn more and more about the Cardinals. And my question for you, Bernie, is when are you buying into this ball club?
Well, I'm buying into them now because they're winning games in a variety of ways. I know last year's team had that 33-18 run. I get that, and so part of me always wants to be. It's like pragmatic. It's like, well, wait a minute, they kind of petered out after that. So, but there's something about this team. I don't know whether it's the youth or the energy or just maybe the culture's been really refined in a way where everybody's in this thing together. There's a lot of baseball brotherhood going on. These guys love playing for each other. They love playing ball. They're intense. They're competitive, but they also know how to have fun, which I think helps them through the hard times. But I just like the way they have responded to so many challenges during this stretch. They had a bullpen on fire, and Ali Marmol and Dusty Blake fixed it like in a hurry. I mean, you just don't see that very often where you retool the whole thing in like 5 minutes. And they haven't got much from Walker or Gorman, and Herrera missed 30 games. And yet you mentioned, they've had to play three double headers since April 30th, and two of the doubleheaders were against really good teams. And the Cardinals won 5 of the 6 games of those three doubleheaders, and they couldn't win on the road. Now they're winning on the road. They couldn't win one-run games. Oh, okay, we can't do that. Well, now we're doing it, and it's like, so every challenge that is kind of put in front of them, they've kind of knocked it down and they've gotten past it. That's just a really good sign. But the old saying, it's a long season, but this is a very entertaining team, much more entertaining than last year because the offense is good, among other things.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I'm going to read you this quote from Phillies manager Rob Thompson yesterday, who told The Athletic's Matt Gelb his thoughts about the Cardinals. Now, looking at the series, the Cardinals win 4 out of 6 games against Philadelphia. Here's what Rob Thompson had to say. He said, they got a good club. You see, today they swung the bats and they can match up against you too. They have enough left-handed bats to match up with your right-handed pitching and vice versa. Really good defense. I think the shortstop is a really good player. He makes that defense solid, and they're pitching well right now. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. They can run. They can steal bases. They can play some small ball when they need to. They're a great ball club. Now, raise your hand as we record this on Thursday, May 15th, if you had St. Louis Cardinals and great ball club in the same sentence. Candidly, I did not. But when I was watching, first of all, my first time at Citizens Bank Park, and I was excited to go because I'd never been there and I'd heard great things about the environment. When I was watching those 2 games, I missed the second one, beat writer travel, had to miss the night game. I felt like I was watching a playoff-like atmosphere, the intensity, how every single pitch I felt like I was on my seat for. And I realized just how much I missed watching baseball games like this and how much fun it is to cover good winning baseball. I personally haven't experienced that in about 2 years. And this series is when I really started to turn the corner, as in, okay, instead of being skeptic, let's try to look at this as, what if this is who they are? And I don't think we're going to fully be able to buy in, or I think most people will push back a little bit. So I'm saying, let's compromise. Let's get them through the end of the month. Let's get through the end of May and reevaluate and see where the Cardinals are, because you'll have 2 full months in the season. But right now, April to May, completely different team results-wise, but not style of play-wise. And that encourages me because they've played a consistent brand of baseball since opening day. And now things have been going their way the last couple of weeks, and you can feel the momentum. You can feel the energy. It just feels like the season could go in a way that maybe we weren't thinking when spring training broke, but it's been really fun to watch.
No doubt about it. And there's so many other things, and I'll try to be quick through this and not to just just talk and talk and talk and talk too long. But they I was looking at, since the April 25th, which I think is sort of when the season restarted, because they fixed the bullpen. That was the first day. And they have the best record in the National League since then, and they have the best record in the majors since April 30th. So April 25th is when it started. So you think about everything they had to do. They had to play the 3 doubleheaders, right? They were still competing without Herrera. They still weren't getting anything from Gorman and Walker. They had a tougher schedule too. The Mets were coming to town. They had to go on the road to play the Phillies. I mean, there was some good opponents, some winning teams, some real challenges. And they got knocked down a few times. They got knocked down yesterday with that, to your point, that really tough loss in the first game. It's a great baseball game, you're right, but it was a really tough loss. And then I'm sitting at home and I'm watching and I'm like, I'm really curious to see, because I want to trust these guys. And I'm like, I want to see how they respond to this. It's a really tough loss, but oh my gosh, now they're down 5-1 at the end of the first inning. And it's like, I got to admit, I can't sit here and be a phony. I was thinking, well, probably going to get swept.
I was thinking, if I had to, I'm glad I missed it. I'm glad I chose to keep my flight.
Yeah, and it's like, boom, and they outscored the Phillies 13-2 the rest of the game. I mean, they were just going crazy. It was like a feeding frenzy. That was like a perfect response. And that's kind of what I wanted to see. And, I was thinking about this too. This will be my last thing on it. They're winning every style of game. Like during this 14-5 stretch that I've obsessed over, they've had 6 one-run wins, right? They've also had 6 wins where they won the game by 5 runs or more. So they, like, if you want to play the tight game, you want to turn into a bullpen game, low scoring, to come down to one play or two. Well, we can do that. The Cardinals think we can do that. We like that. It's like, well, Bernie and Katie, that's great, but do they blow teams out? Yeah, they actually blow teams out a lot, because the offense is so much better than it was last year. The Cardinals are now like 7th in the majors, like runs per game, and they're in the top 9 in every other category. This is like a top 9 offense as we record this today. The starting pitching is gotten really good. The bullpen's been remarkable. Their base running's a little The defense is fantastic, and there are some stars emerging as well. So yeah, this has been a really good time to kind of, I hate to use a cliche, sorry, where it's kind of like, all right, show us what you got. They've showed out pretty well.
And that is a perfect segue to the theme of this episode, which is the quarter mark check-in. The Cardinals are 24-20. A season best, 4 games over 500. We'll get on into maybe our entire summary of the first quarter of the season, which is crazy. Right after we hear from our friends at PXG.
This is a straightforward show, so I'm going to be very straightforward with everyone about PXG. Fastest way to improve your performance on the golf course is to get yourself a PXG golf fitting. Go in there and let the experts help you.
I've been using PXG for a few years now, Scotty. They are perfect. I love the way they feel. They fit them perfectly to my swing. They weighted them. They put grips in them. They put shafts in them. They use their heads, and they fit my swing beautifully. They have definitely improved my game. They just recently hooked me up with their new Allen putter, which is off the chain. I was draining putts the other day, left and right. So I definitely say go get your fitting at PXG. Nobody goes golf the way PXG does.
Yes, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/FOUL to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/foul. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All right, let's check in.
Right.
I can't believe that they are a quarter way through the season. I feel like spring training was both a week ago and maybe 4 years ago, but it's crazy for me to phrase it this way. I thought you were spot on with your analysis, Bernie. I mean, the offense has been consistently good, even with Ivan Herrera gone for 30 games, Jordan Walker struggling, Nolan Gorman struggling. You're seeing guys step up like Brendan Donovan, Victor Scott II, Wilson Contreras, Mason Wynn starting to swing it a little bit more. I like what we're seeing out of the bullpen, and I do think that we deserve to give some credit to Dusty Blake and Ollie Marmol for how they addressed it. I know there was some frustration over Ryan Fernandez's April, but I did understand where they were coming from that early in the season when it became clear that this was no longer beneficial for him. They made that change. I like what we're seeing out of Graceffo pumping 98. That's super fun. Steven Matz has been great. The rotation, it's been good. It's kept them in ball games. I think we can fairly wonder about the sustainability of this, and that'll be on The Athletic tomorrow. I wrote about that for Friday morning. But for right now, they've done a very nice job of pitching to their strengths, keeping the ball in the ballpark, and utilizing what I think has been the most underrated aspect of the team, but the biggest reason why they've been so successful, their defense. The Cardinals' defense is stellar across the board. And when you look at the names, you think of Nolan Arenado, Mason Wynn, Victor Scott II, and you're like, yeah, of course it's good. But let me just put into perspective how good the defense is. The Cardinals have registered an MLB high 24 outs above average as a team. That's 6 more than the next highest team, which is the Astros at 18. They've also prevented the most runs, 19, and they're in a 4-way tie with the Astros, Phillies, and Royals for the best team fielding percentage at 990. Victor Scott II, he's at 6 outs above average. That's the 3rd best in baseball. Mason Wynn right behind him with 5, same with Nolan Arenado. And I'm going to give you one guess. If you're looking at first baseman in baseball, where do you think Wilson Contreras ranks in outs above average?
Oh, I know that answer. He was either, I'm trying to remember my notes in my head. He was I think he was tied for 3rd in outs above average. Fielding run value, I think he was tied for 3rd. Defensive run saved, I think he was 6th. And I may throw this in too. And this is not a shot at the great Paul Goldschmidt, but a lot of Cardinals fans were kvetching. It's like, oh my gosh, Goldie's so good defensively, and Contreras, I don't know about this. Take a look at the same numbers. Yeah, take a look at the same numbers that we just talked about and see where Goldie ranks. I mean, if Contreras has been better than Goldie defensively this season. I've watched some of these games recently where it's like, whoa, like he just keeps making play after play after play. And how about the way he stretches out and like digs errant throws out? It's like it looks like the guy can stretch. It looks like he's stretches like I don't know an analogy, but it's he's like a gymnast or something, and he's this big guy. I mean, he's really good down there. So
he is really good down there.
And I think that's one of the pleasant things about the season, So yeah, their whole infield's really good. And Wilson Contreras is not a liability. He's the opposite of that. So I totally agree. Nootbaar's good, Victor Scott's good, Walker's so much improved. They provide so much cover for that starting rotation, which doesn't have the high strikeout punch. Maybe Sonny Gray does, and maybe Libby does, but by and large, it's a ground ball staff. They got to rely on their defense. And this defense, it's like you almost have to have this kind of defense for this starting pitching to put up some of the numbers we've seen them put up.
Absolutely. And that's why I think this defense is so critical to the Cardinals' success and why it's fair to question the sustainability of the rotation. We've known for a very long time, swing and miss and chase is what plays in this game. And the Cardinals' rather outdated approach of pitching to contact, weak ground balls, and hoping your defense makes the play doesn't really work until this season where it's worked. And I, again, don't know how sustainable it is, but the defense alone has been so stellar. And I don't know if we're talking about Contreras enough from first base. I know over the last week or so, several of his teammates have pointed out in their post-media or post-game scrums that, hey, Wilson Contreras is doing a heck of a job. Eric Fetty yesterday said, we're probably not talking about Wilson Contreras enough at first base. And I think you're right. There was a lot of comparisons to Paul Goldschmidt. And if the Cardinals would, if Contreras would be able to make up for that, if he could fill the shoes of Goldie, because those were some very big shoes. And he's done an incredible job. I'm encouraged to see what the defense looks like and how they keep going, because it will be pivotal for this rotation going forward. There are some things the Cardinals are doing. There has been a big emphasis on getting more swing and miss, pitching to the favorable counts, right? Like attacking the zone early, going 0-2, 1-2, and then you're purposely missing the zone to get some chase and swing and miss. Like there's a concentrated effort there. But that doesn't mean the Cardinals are going to go away fully from what they're doing well, which is putting the ball in play and letting their league best defense do the work. That's been the story of the season for me. But I don't know. When you focus on the offense and the pitching, I always feel like no matter what club it is, defense is on the back burner. This Cardinals defense we're not talking about enough in general. And I think Contreras is an individual example of that.
Right, and we saw the disaster that was 2023. One of the reasons they let their defense lapse, that was a terrible defense, never cleaned it up. And Ollie, to his credit, did clean it up for 2024, and they were good last year, but they're great this year. So no, I'm with you 100% on that. And the other thing, and this I think fits into the quarter mark check-in. Like, in other words, I'm not trying to change the subject because I think this fit. No, I think this fits. I was thinking about this today, and I'm not overreacting. I've been around a long time. I try not to overreact. I sort of have that perspective. But this team has got so much more star power, I think, in the position player. If you think about it, Goldie's gone. Okay. But Wilson Contreras, once he started hitting April 20th or so, I mean, this dude is a star. Mason Wynn is a star. Victor Scott is a rising star. I mean, Donovan, I don't know how much run he gets nationally, but this guy does everything well. And he's also the kind of ball player that I think most longtime baseball fans just love to watch this guy play. And, Nootbaar has got that pizzazz. He's got that charisma. This team has got so much more charisma than any point since 2022, when it was just all kinds of charisma, and a lot of it because Pujols and Molina, their final year together, plus Goldie, the MVP, Arenado third. I think from a position player standpoint, this team's got swag. They think like stars. They play like stars. They love pressure. They love big moments. They don't get down. They continue to believe in themselves. They respond to challenges. I mean, there's just something about them that is very, very appealing, aesthetically appealing, but also if you love good baseball, this team's very appealing. So that's why I wanted to throw that in. Let's keep an eye on this kind of rising star power of this team. They've just got more sizzle than they've had in quite a while.
I think their charisma's off the charts in terms of what we've seen in 23 and 24, where they're playing to win games. They're not playing to lose. Like, they're out there going to, like, trying to win instead of trying not to lose, I think is when I watch the Cardinals, that's what I see this year. And It's super fun because some of these young players are supposed to fail, right? They're supposed to go through the struggle and the trials and tribulations of a baseball season. But what I really enjoyed, my thing, if I had to pick one thing that I've really enjoyed the most about watching the Cardinals so far, is that they are very rarely out of a ball game. Yesterday, for example, you're coming off a brutal 2-1 loss. And to be honest, I didn't have a problem with how they lost that game. If you're going to lose baseball games, you lose them in that style, I think you're going to be okay. That was a competitive one pitch, really is going to dictate whether you win or lose that game. That's the kind of style of baseball you want to be playing. But then when you go out there and your ace is on the mound for the nightcap, you're dragging, you're tired, it's travel day, you've already been on the road for a week, he gives up a 5 spot in the first. Most teams are like, okay, deflated balloon, this sucks, we're going to get our butts kicked and, lose the series.
Right.
And when I woke up from my flight, I saw it was 9-7. And I said, why am I surprised? Why am I surprised to see that they erased that deficit and came all the way back and are leading? Because they've shown that tenacity and their ability to fight all season long. In April, they weren't coming out on the winning ends of it, right? We know this. We know how many close-knit ball games, 1-run, 2-run leads they were not able to overcome, but they were always in it. In May, they're finding out ways to not only be in it, but win those games. And when you are a team that can erase a 5-run deficit or 4-run deficit, in the first, and can go out there and say, okay, so we got smacked around, but we have 8 innings to chip away. It's not the first time we've seen the Cardinals do that. That to me is the sign of a lineup that clicks. And more importantly, the sign of a clubhouse that has trust in each other and is convicted that they're never really fully out of a game.
Right. And especially that now that this bullpen is whole and this bullpen's really, really good, that even emboldens the offense players on this team even more, because they know, wait a minute, all due respect to what was going on, that stuff's not happening anymore. We got a really good pen. So not that they were going to give up on games, but now they have an extra motivation to fight. And one other thing I want to throw in, because I'm sort of like the unofficial chairman of the Ivan Herrera fan club, and I left him out of the rising star category. You know me with numbers. I was looking up something today. First of all, since he's been back, it's like, what? Oh, you missed 30 games, you come back, and it's like, oh, no problem. I'm going to hit 400 and just hit line drives all over the place. Oh, I'll also draw walks. You know, the guy's just sick. All right, since the start of last season, among major league hitters that have 300 plate appearances or more, whether you want to use WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, or you want to use OPS plus, he's the second best hitter in the major leagues.
Wow.
Seriously, based on the number, just based on those two metrics. The only guy that's been better over that time, again, minimum 300 plate appearances, has been Marcell Ozuna. Herrera is like, it's scary to think how great a hitter this guy's going to be, because he's pretty great now. And I hate to say this, shame on me, but I was telling a friend that just in terms of like physical presence, body type, kind of like an attitude, a good attitude, just a persona. I hate myself for saying this, but I haven't seen a young player of that size and persona. He reminds me of a guy I saw for the first time in 2001. Now, that guy, I'm not going to say his name. People have to figure it out. Yeah. You know, but I'm not saying that Herrera is going to have that kind of career. I'm not saying it, but just in terms of the persona, the physical power, the confidence, you know, smart play, knows how to take walks, not afraid to take walks. He's not swinging at everything. It's a smart guy. He reminds me of a young guy I saw, 25 years ago, basically. Yeah, he does. I won't say his name because that's too much. I don't want to put that on him. Like when the old man here says, you know, this kid reminds me of somebody. And I don't say that lightly.
No,
again, not going to. I'm not saying he's going to have that kind of career, because nobody is. But anyway, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a big comparison to make, but I think when you're looking at when the Cardinals are just how they've developed hitters in general, it's been a long time since they've had a homegrown talent look like Ivan Herrera does right now. And that's what's encouraging. Now, hopefully he can stay healthy, and they got to figure out what this catching DH split is going to be. They don't necessarily have the luxury of having another DH. But for right now, it's working. They're facing a ton of lefties, so run them out there as DH as much as you can. And when you have to make a decision about your catching, just like playing time, we go back to that. But right now, he's transformed the lineup with his bat.
No, he has, and also for a big man, he runs very well. And see my thing real quick. I don't want to see him catch. Because I don't want to see him get beat up. What's the point of that? You're really going to need his bat, especially if Walker and Gorman don't, pick it up. Like, he's going to be a guy, an X factor who can really fill in a lot of that offense. I don't want to see him getting beat up behind the plate. He's just a natural born hitter. He's great at it, which isn't to say that, they're crazy to not give up on him at catcher. But I'm just saying, given you optimize your offense by making him the DH. You optimize your defense by having not just Pages, but also Pozo as catchers. Mm-hmm. So both areas are stronger if you primarily use Ivan Herrera DH.
And I think we might see that just depending on how the trajectories over the next few weeks of Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker look. But that is a conversation for another time. We have one more segment for you all, but first a message from HelloFresh.
Hey, FT fam, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit, Cam, because we're busy and we would like all of the ingredients to cook up something nice and make us look like elite chefs at home.
You know what I do? I've got kids in basketball, I've got soccer, I've got baseball. And when they get home, there's a fresh meal and they think, "Oh, Dad, he's so great." Well, no, it's not me. It's HelloFresh. It's nutritious. It's packed full of good nutrients. The kids have good energy, and they look at me like I'm the greatest dad in the world. So make sure you go grab that HelloFresh, because you know what? It's doing my family all the good.
Cook up dishes like chicken Dijon and pecan crusted trout, over 100 seasonal snacks, sides, and treats as well. Feel great with meals that fit your spring schedule and make the season even more delicious. Go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM now to get 10 free meals with a free item for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan.
All right, so as we look ahead through the rest of May, Cardinals are in Kansas City right now, an off day here across the interstate 3 against the Royals. They'll come back for a home stand, 3 against Detroit, 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then they'll finish the month with 4 against the Orioles and 3 against the Rangers. That is off the top of my head. Please clap for me.
Good job. Okay. You
Yeah.
got it. Great
Um,
job.
And I think that's a good mix of different kind of teams at different kind of levels. And I think over the next 2 weeks, what do you have to see from the Cardinals to convince yourself that this is real, Bernie? You are a little more optimistic than I am, but go ahead.
Well, no, well, listen, I think it's unfair to expect the bullpen to perform exactly the way they have since April the 25th when the remodel kicked in.
Right, they didn't allow an earned run for forever, basically.
Yeah, I mean they're just sick, but I still think they can be a high level bullpen. They have depth there. We've seen guys come up from the minor leagues and do really well. So I mean, I think they have pretty good depth. I'm with you. I'm with you in terms of the rotation. I like the rotation. I think it's good. It's solid. But there's not a lot of depth, and I know that Michael McGreevy is down at AAA. I get it, but Quinn Matthews isn't ready. Not that they were counting on, Tank Hence or Cooper Yerpe or Sem Rubbersay. I say all their names wrong. All those guys are hurt. They're just complete non-factor. Well, Matthews might be a factor late in the season. There's just not a lot. There's not a lot to lean on if there's a problem. Although they could fool around with some stuff. But again, I do worry about the starting pitching depth. With all due respect to McGreevy, he's just one guy. Suppose they have a couple things. They have a couple guys, and there's somebody. I really never want to see anybody get injured. But suppose that happens, then all of a sudden you're pretty vulnerable. Can as much as we all love Liberatore pitching, what's he going to look like after the All-Star break? He hasn't had innings like this in a long time. Palante's kind of been up and down. I just don't know. Sonny Gray, way too many home runs again, dude. I mean, it's like, Michaelis, really good. But again, can you count on him to have a 2.56 or whatever it is ERA over 6 starts over and over again the way he's done? Maybe it was a 2.89 ERA. That you're sort of getting house money stuff from him right now. But again, I just don't know. I just don't know if that'll hold up. Eric Fetty's been up and down. If he pitches the way he did on this road trip so far, outstanding. But I'm not sure, how much you can take that to the bank. So, yeah, that's the one thing. And I'm glad you brought it up. And I really look forward to reading your story, all your stories at The Athletic, about the rotation still being a little bit of I don't know. So I agree with that, as much as I like the way they've played or performed.
Yeah, I think they deserve a lot of credit for being able to pitch to their strengths and being able to post and keep this team in ball games, because I think coming into the season, the rotation was projected to be probably the team's biggest weakness, and it's actually been an underrated strength. And I think it's fair again to question, can they keep it up? You want to see better numbers from Sonny Gray overall. I'm big on Matthew Liberatore. The innings thing is a concern. It's been a very long time since he performed as a starting pitcher for an entire season. But honestly, if there's one pitcher that I could choose to where I think that'd be okay, I think it would be Libby. I just think he's got something really special going on this season, and I enjoy every Libby start day. Palante is progressing. It's getting there, a little bit. You'd like to see a little bit more swing and miss from him, but he's never been that type of pitcher. So to come out here and expect him to be that and completely change his arsenal, that's not going to happen overnight. And the Cardinals aren't expecting that too. Mike's done a nice job. You wonder if that's sustainable. And Fetty, just cut down the walks, and he's been serviceable. So if you have a rotation of mostly serviceable guys, most teams in baseball around, what the Cardinals are trying to do, which is play consistent ball to keep staying in their division, they don't have that. Of course, the powerhouses do. But even when they do, look at the Dodgers, who had every single pitcher known to man and are still scrambling for depth. Right. It just goes to show how intentional Ollie Marmol and Dusty Blake were with this 6-man hybrid schedule, six game schedule. Intentional they were in April was for a reason, because it's led to some really good success from the starting pitching. If they can keep that up through the month of May, you might be able to label me a Cardinals believer, but we will see.
Yeah, and I want to tie up a loose end. If they would have some injury issues, Matz could also, obviously pivot to the rotation. So you would have Matz and McGreevy. So it's probably not as bad as I.
But then how do you backfill the bullpen? Because what Matz has done with the bullpen has been invaluable as well.
I know that would eat up some of your depth there, but I'm really encouraged by a lot of what we've seen, and I do think that Dusty Blake fixed Romero pretty good with finding tweaking a flaw in his delivery. He's throwing harder. He looks better. So, yeah, I think their run prevention because of this defense, and I think all their pitchers are pretty smart too. They're starting pitchers. So I think that defense is kind of what we talked about already. I think they have their back, and that's a reassuring thing. This could get this with this rotation. It unless it's one of Sonny Gray's, 9-10 strikeout games or Libby's mowing them down. I cringe to think of what a bad defense, what this pitching staff, the ERAs would be with a really bad defense like 2023. It would be pretty ugly.
Well, thankfully, we haven't had to see that yet. Before we go, I would like to admit that I severely overestimated my cheesesteak eating ability. I had just 2.5, but the reputation of the visiting clubhouse at Citizens Bank Park having the best cheesesteaks in Philadelphia, I can attest to that. Here's how good it was. I posted just a photo of Chip, Mark Sweeney, and I holding our cheesesteaks on my Instagram story. And why did that picture get more likes than my last selfie? So if the goodness is being, we need to talk about that. Let's be better, Instagram followers. If the goodness transcends the screen, that's how you know it's a good cheesesteak. But shout out to Chris Roycroft, who ate 8.5 cheesesteaks, and they're like a foot long. 8.5 cheesesteaks in 2 days because they were not at the ballpark on Tuesday. And
he probably went down there anyway. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
To one up. He won $1,000. There was a running bet in the clubhouse. Whoever ate the most cheesesteaks during the series won $1,000, and Chris Roycroft, the winner. And from what I heard, no one was even close. So, congrats.
I wonder if he lost any of that in the red beard there.
I have no idea, but I
like cheesesteak droppings. Yeah, I don't know.
The first game, so that must have helped, right? Because after the second game, you don't have anything like you're not pitching, so you could just go out and hammer cheesesteaks. What a life! I want to be a reliever so bad.
If one thing before we go, because I know you're in a tight fit. I do want to say this. Next time, maybe we can leave some room, especially if the Cardinals are winning. But it's not like I'm going to turn on Ollie Marmol if they have a bad series or two. I don't think he's getting enough credit. And I've been critical of Ollie. Don't get me wrong. I don't hesitate. I don't think he's getting enough credit for the job he's done so far. I think and the whole coaching staff too. But you can't talk about Ollie and act like the coaching staff, they're propping him up. Ollie, those guys wanted to work for Ollie. Ollie went out and recruited those guys, and he gave them autonomy. He gave them power. He welcomes dissenting opinions. They work great together. I don't think enough praise has gone his way. And if they continue to win, my question to Cardinals fans would be the ones that still just don't like him or think he's bad. It's like, well, what is it going to take for you to actually say, yeah, he's done a good job? Or is this something personal? You'll never forgive him.
I can answer that, Bernie. If you're winning ball games, nobody cares about the manager. If you're losing ball games, everyone hates the manager. That's just what you sign up for to when you're a major league skipper, fair or not. But it's a great topic for next episode because I actually do tend to agree with you. But if I say that too loudly, I'm just kidding. I do think he deserves some credit here too. And we'll see how this series goes against the Royals. Royals are playing some good baseball. Cardinals are playing some good baseball as well. So another good weekend of good ball in the I-70 series. We'll be back with you to preview it or to summarize it after the weekend. Stephen Matz jumping on the show in the near future. So that's super exciting. He'll be our next player interview, and we have some fun things in the works as well. But I got to run because I am rapidly running out of time to hit my deadline.
Bye.
For Bernie, I'm Katie. Thanks as always for watching Cardinal Territory. We will see you next week.